Seeing as winter's now over, I thought we'd do a bit of a catch-up on some experiments we did over winter and a little bit beyond, some tests we did. Now, the antifreeze test on the board here proved quite successful. We worked out that the 50% mix was the best one. It got us down to -26 without no problems at all. However, was it actually 50%? Now, I mixed that with distilled water, and I thought rather than throwing it away, because it's only a few months old, why don't I mix it with some stronger antifreeze to put into the Malawi one when we put the engine back in? Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? Because I've got plenty of it left. But how strong is it? Well, I've had those testers for testing antifreeze before that work on like specific gravity, and I was always very disappointed. You know, the one I haven't got a picture of one. I'll put a picture up here of one, but they've been very disappointing because they've been so vague. So I bought myself one of these. It's a refractometer, and it's a really neat little tool, and it's one of them tools you thought, well, I've seen them before, but what do they do? Well, I don't know how it works. I'm not professional. But what you do is you effectively put a drop of your coolant that you want to test on here. Now, these do all sorts of things: honey, alcohol, all sorts of different things, but this one is specifically is set up for doing antifreeze and battery acid. Well, most batteries now are sealed, you can't get into them, but for doing antifreeze is a pretty good piece of kit. Now, obviously there's two types of, there's ethylene glycol and propylene glycol antifreeze, or coolant as we should call it. How do you tell the difference? I don't know. The only way I do know is ethylene glycol is poisonous and propylene glycol isn't, because propylene glycol is what they use in vaping. Don't want to get them two mixed up, do you? Now, what's so special about it? Well, you'll see on a picture I'll put here, this is the screen you'll actually see when you're looking through the little eye thing like this, you know. It's really neat. Well, there's a couple of things, you know, I thought it was $25 off Amazon. And I thought, this is great value. You know, like for a little simple tool like that, it's a really good valued piece of kit because it works. What do you need to know about it? Well, you have to set it up first, all right? Now, setting it up sounds, oh, that's complicated, mate. You adjust the eyepiece here, because like if you've got eyes like me, you can't see your hand in front of your face nowadays, that you adjust it here, and then there's a little screen just here that you can see. And what you do is, once you've got that set up, you take this wee cap off here, and in the box of bits and bobs, you've got a screwdriver, and you take your pipette here, and you take some distilled water, not tap water, distilled water. You put some drops on here, and you close the screen and leave it a little while till it gets up to temperature. You know, that we don't have to worry about that too much because it's all ambient temperature anyway. But it must cover, the puddle must cover this blue area here. It's really easy. I thought it was going to be complicated. And then you look through it, and in the screen you'll see what percentage of antifreeze is. Now, as I was going back to ethylene glycol, propylene glycol, majority of antifreeze is ethylene glycol. Doesn't matter what it is, it's all the bloody same, but ethylene glycol's generally, there's two scales, you see, that's what I'm banging on about. There's a propylene glycol, ethylene glycol. Now, when I did this experiment, I was just using distilled water and like a measuring cap. Not very accurate, but close. But close isn't good enough for us. Close enough isn't good enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to use it. And we're going to use the 50% one on there, and we're going to put a couple of drops on here. So you take your pipette. I'll put the screen down a bit so I'm not going up there. There we go. Take your pipette, a couple of drops on. Right, so you don't need much. And then close the screen. Might need, oh, is it going to go? There. You see how it's all covered? Let's do that again. See some bubbles in there? Move it around a bit, get rid of those bubbles. It can make a bad reading, but in this instance, seeing it's a test, an experiment, well then we've got to do it. So we've got to look through the screen, and that is 46%. So it wasn't quite 50%, it was 46%. Alright, so that was easy, wasn't it? Now, I'm going to just run inside and get a piece of paper towel and clean this off. The next one we're going to test is the 10%. Again, just a few drops on here. See there, look, close the screen. And let it go all the way around, if you see what I mean. Just give it a bit of a wiggle, so it covers completely. If there's not enough in there, take it off, put a couple of more drops on, till you get it fully covered. Now, this could be interesting. I see no ships. That actually is around about 10%. Actually, that's not too bad. It was 10%. I wish you could see it, but I don't think you won't be able to see it because you've got to hold it right up close to your eye. That said, what about testing old cars? Now, I thought about testing my Yaris. That has never had the coolant changed in years. It's a 2006, it's never had the coolant changed. In fact, I don't think we've even topped it up. It's been a good little car. Let's go and have a look and see what it is. So, what we're going to do is come to the old faithful Yaris and we're going to test it. Now, the nice thing about the Yaris is the access to the coolant is quite easy. There's a little top on here and we can get into there and take a sample, put it onto the screen, close the lid and make sure it's all covered, and now we'll have a look at it, hold it level, have a look in the gauge. Goodness gracious me, that is good to 64% antifreeze, good to around about, how would we say, it's between 55 and 60. 55 to 60 degrees Celsius protection. Very good. That's probably why we never had a problem with it. Should I change the antifreeze? I don't know. Probably rust out before I get round to changing that. Well, it already is a little bit rusty. Never mind, I'm rambling. Good tool. Nice little thing. Comes in a presentation box. It even comes with an LED light so you can shine it in there. But I think I've really taken to that, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix those antifreezes up to make a 50% mix, like I said, to put into the Malawi waste not want not. It's only been there a few months. Anyway, we did some other experiments last year, if you can remember. Let's go and have a look at the wire wool that was fastened to the back of my 130. Now, a few of you have been asking me about an update on my wire wool experiment on the back of the 130. Well, I wasn't going to mess about in winter because it was too cold, but now that the winter's over, let's have a look. Now remember, let's for a recap, what did we use? Well, I've got a little plan here. I printed out a little plan. So this is the front of the car. So in order of I'll take the camera off so we can look at that. We've got crown rustproofing, we've got engine oil. I soaked it in engine oil, if you can remember, this wire wool. We've got a control. That's straight out the box. It would have had a bit of factory, how do we say, oil on it or something like that. At the other side we have fluid film, and then we've got honey goo, and then WD-40. So let's have a look. So first of all, let's have a look at our control. This is just regular wire wool, and you can see, look, it's all flaky, dropping off. Didn't do too bad actually, but you can see it's kind of flaky, so that's alright. I'm going to leave it on a bit longer actually. This, surprisingly enough, was soaked in engine oil, and look at it. there's no oil on that at all. Look, you see it's all flaked off. Amazing, look at that. Now on the other hand, crown rust proofing, oh, it's like a hobnob. It wants more. Look, there's nothing on that. Bit of road dirt on the front, but no rust. Nice. Let's have a look at this one here. This is WD-40. Now a lot of people said that crown and WD-40 are exactly the same. Well, not really. And this was soaked in WD-40. It held it back a little bit. Not too good. Now the next one was honey goo. That's done well. That's road dirt in there. It's not rust, you know. And the one at the front, that is fluid film, and that's done excellent as well. So yeah. But I was kind of interested in that the engine oil did do nothing at all. Waste of time. And WD-40, well, we know what that's good for. Putting windscreens in. Let's go and have a look though at the crown rust proofing on my scrap can. Now, almost 8 months ago, I mean, it seems like yesterday, doesn't it, that I sprayed this scrap can, with crown. And what I did as a bit of an experiment, because I didn't really put too much attention into it, I ground a piece of rust and paint and I sprayed it, but I also had a control here that was equally as rusty. So I just sprayed this area here from about 8 inches away. Now I don't know if you can see, I'm going to lose my camera in a minute. Yeah, let's try that. The crown is soaked in right down here, right round here, and right to the bottom. So how did it really do on the bare metal after 8 months? It has just got some little spots on. Let's zoom in. It's still shiny. I should have done WD-40. There's some little tiny spots on there, but it's not greasy anymore. But it's just like water splashes, but it hasn't gone completely rusty. That's pretty good considering it wasn't a really scientific experiment. And maybe I should have given it another coat. But maybe again, what I might do on this side is scrape it away and put some WD-40, because everybody says WD-40 is the bee's knees. I don't think so. I think it's rubbish. But I was impressed with the crown, how it's soaked all the way round, right down to the bottom. This bit here is engine oil, but this is all dropped down, so very impressed. So what I'm saying is, if you squirt your inside of your chassis with this stuff, it's going to go all over the place. You know, this was out in the elements and things like this, but inside a chassis it should last an awful lot longer, because it'll creep into all the welded joints, which is a good thing. That's where the humidity gets in, and save that chassis. What else have we got to have a look at? Oh, what about, yeah, we already saw the propane tank, but someone who hadn't seen the propane tank, let's go and have a look. I think the propane tank was the most fun experiment I've done in a long time. You couldn't believe it had gone round like this. So what I kept doing was filling it full of water, leaving it outside in the ice, you know, the cold, let it ice up, let it expand, bring it in, thaw it out. Did it quite a few times, and it was getting bigger and bigger. Now towards the end, this capacity I think was 21 litres, and by the end we were getting up to 26, and then it split. So now it's not so cold outside. I'll show you where it split. It split here. Now why did it split there? There's a spot weld, there's a tack weld here holding this ring on. In fact, you might be able to see another one just here. And it split a long time ago. So what I did was I put a bit of body filler over the hole, because it was a tiny weep, just so I could fill it up again for the last time, and then it let go, and that was it. So it's just like a buoy, isn't it? You know, like at the sea, you know, put a flag on it and things like that. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to offer it up as a prize, But any suggestions what I should do with it? It seems a shame to scrap it after all that, doesn't it? But look at it, look at this, look at all the paint just came off. Now that's another good test, because again, this I should have put some crown rust proofing on it, shouldn't I, and seen what it did. But obviously you can see what happens even in my yard when it's not sort of inundated with salt. What can happen? It just gets, everything just gets rusty. So any rust proofing is better than nothing.